Everyone has a family, right? Well, sadly, not always. But a family is one of the most important and fundamental associations of our lives. Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 265 of Discerning What is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues in everyday life. The nuclear family, what some Christian scholars prefer to call the natural family, is typically defined as two parents and their children living in the same household. It has long been regarded as a foundational social institution in societies worldwide. Indeed, many sociologists and historians have referred to the traditional family structure as the basic building block of society. Externally, families, then clans, then tribes made sense for protection. There is strength in numbers, and in a fallen world, the families even at the dawn of time quickly learned there was value in sticking together. Historically, the nuclear family also served as a primary unit for child rearing, economic cooperation, socialization, and the transmission of cultural values. While family structures have varied across cultures and time periods, the nuclear family has played a particularly influential role in the development of modern societies and nation-states, including the United States. One reason the nuclear family has been considered an important building block of healthy societies is its role in providing stability and continuity across generations. Families are often the first environment in which children learn language, social norms, moral values, and interpersonal skills. Parents typically serve as a child's earliest teachers and caregivers, helping to shape emotional development and educational outcomes. Research has frequently found that children, on average, benefit from stable and supportive family environments. Historically, the nuclear family also functioned as an economic partnership. In agriculture and industrial societies alike, family members often pooled resources, shared responsibilities, and provided mutual support during times of hardship. Strong family networks could reduce dependence on external institutions, while fostering social cohesion and community engagement. The family unity also contributed to cultural continuity by passing traditions, beliefs, and identities from one generation to the next. Over the past 50 years in the United States, however, the status of the nuclear family has undergone significant change. In my lifetime, there has been a remarkable flight from the family. It has been not only from the traditional family, the relatively patriarchal form made up of male breadwinner and female housewife, but also from the nuclear family itself, one focused on childbearing and constituted by a legal, lifelong, sexually exclusive, heterosexual, monogamous marriage. The rejection of the traditional family now has wide popular support, but we are perhaps unwittingly in the process of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. The recent transformation has been especially dramatic because just prior to the period in question, the nuclear family had reached an apogee in America. In the 1950s, fueled in part by falling maternal and child mortality rates, greater longevity, and high marriage rate, a higher proportion of children than ever before grew up in stable two-parent families. Similarly, in this period, the highest ever proportion of women married, bore children, and lived jointly with their husbands until at least age 50. In the 1960s, however, four major social trends emerged to prompt a widespread decline of the nuclear family: rapid fertility decline, the sexual revolution, the movement of mothers into the labor force, and the divorce revolution. The unavoidable conclusion from recent family trends is that American society has been moving in an ominous direction toward the devaluation of children. Statistically speaking, the traditional nuclear family is no longer the norm. In fact, 80% of households have a non-traditional family structure in the United States. Family structures that may be considered non-traditional or alternative include but are not limited to single-parent families, a single parent raises a child alone, cohabitation, an unmarried couple shares a household, same-sex families, two individuals of the same sex raise a family, grandparenting, grandparents raising grandchildren, or polygamy, marriage between at least three people. Beginning in the 1960s and accelerating through the 1970s and beyond, A variety of social, economic, and cultural forces, which is to say choices, altered family formation patterns. Rising divorce rates, increased participation of women in the workforce, delayed marriage, declining fertility rates, and changing social attitudes toward relationships all contributed to a diversification of family structures. The nuclear family crumbled piece by piece. In 1970, more than two-thirds of American adults between 25 and 49 lived with a spouse and at least one child. By 2021, only 37% of adults fit the bill. Economic pressures have been particularly significant. Housing costs, wage stagnation for many workers, student debt, and the increasing costs of raising children have made family formation more difficult for many Americans. Young adults now often marry later than previous generations, and some choose not to marry at all. At the same time, greater geographic mobility and changing work patterns have weakened some forms of extended family support. The decline of the traditional nuclear family as the dominant household model has been a subject of considerable debate. Some scholars and commentators argue that reductions in marriage rates and increases in single-parent households have contributed to social challenges, including economic inequality and reduced social stability. Today, the nuclear family remains an important and influential institution in the United States, but it is no longer the sole or overwhelmingly dominant family form. Its cultural significance persists, yet it exists alongside a wider range of household structures than in previous generations. The past 50 years have therefore been characterized not simply by the disappearance of the nuclear family, but by its adaptation within a society experiencing profound economic, demographic, and cultural change. Yet, a nuclear family headed by two loving married parents remains the most stable and safest environment for raising children. There are, of course, still reasons for legitimate concern about the state of the American family. Marriage today is less likely to anchor family life in many poor and working-class communities. While a majority of college-educated men and women between 18 and 55 are married, that's no longer true for the poor. Only 26% are married, and the working class, 39%. What's more, children from these families are markedly less likely to live under the same roof as their biological parents than their peers from better-off backgrounds. The positive effects of stable marriage and stable nuclear families also spill over. Neighborhoods, towns, and cities are more likely to flourish when they are sustained by lots of married households. The work of the Harvard sociologist Robert Sampson tells us that neighborhoods with many two-parent families are much safer. In his own words, family structure is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, predictors of variations in urban violence across cities in the United States. Communities are stronger and safer when they include lots of committed married couples. But in spite of the fact that much of American intelligentsia rejected the nuclear family, or at least said they were open to other forms of arrangements, still, the traditional dad, mom, and children model has proven again and again its staying power, its positive contributions to emotional and other forms of growth, and its capacity to provide a safe environment in which children can learn, make mistakes and grow, learn moral parameters, form their personalities, and enjoy a security in which they can discover their own interests and talents, in which they know for certain they are loved, valued, and that they matter, thus avoiding rampant teenage traumas and anxieties and personal instability. Families matter, so we should do our part to reinforce our own families and to enjoy and contribute to the family of God represented in our local church. God said, let us not grow weary of doing good. This starts with the family. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking and helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And for more Christian commentary, see my website, REXM as in Martin, it's rexmrogers.com, or check my YouTube channel at Dr. Rex Rogers. And remember, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm.